We're about to go live, and we're going to talk about fixing your marketing so you can grow your small business way faster. My guest, Mike Schuster, is an absolute expert. He lives and breathes and probably cries a bit at times over this, but he does this every day. He's a marketing consultant, coach, knows what he's doing. This is a super important topic, but we're about to go live. Hold on, grab your coffee or booze. Depends what time of day it is, and it could be in the morning. I'm not judging, but get what you need to enjoy this. Let's go get out there and unleash our entrepreneur. Welcome to the Never Been Promoted podcast and YouTube channel. I'm on a mission to help you cut the time to all the things that are holding you back so you can unleash your entrepreneur. I know you're probably wondering right now, does water really taste better out of it, Stanley? Fuck yeah, it does. It has absolutely nothing to do with the show, and nor does Stanley actually pay me to say that, but I really wish they would, because water does taste amazing out of that thing. All right, here nor there, that's a bit of marketing. Not fixed, probably not recommended to do that, but here's the thing, I don't care, because it's my show, and I love it, and it's having fun. And last night, I discovered that we are a top 10% global podcast, and I am freaking pumped. That is so cool. I love it. I'm going to tell my teams over and over. I called them together today, and I was so proud of them because what we're trying to do here at Never Been Promoted is help entrepreneurs get better at entrepreneurship by cutting the tide, all the kind of shit that holds you back. And that's the fears, the excuses, maybe sometimes the people in your life, but also this sense of entitlement, like the world owes you something, because it does not, and it won't give you anything. You're going to have to go get it. 100% is going to be up to you. If you don't believe that, get out of the entrepreneurial game, because it's the truth. Today, though, we are going to be talking with Mike Schuster. Mike is a marketing expert. Honestly, he helps fix your marketing in your small business where you have what's an idea of like a leaky bucket, and you're going to get in there, helps plug those holes, helps you focus, not waste money, so you can grow your small business fast. Last call to action, guys, youtube.com/@neverbeenpromoted. Give it a like, give it a subscribe, do the whole notifications, because we go live a bunch. We got a bunch of cool content coming out. If you're listening to the podcast, thank you. But get out there and go maybe, I don't know, give it a 5-star review. That's what I'd really like. It'd be great. Appreciate it. Let's bring Mike onto the stage. Mike, how are you today?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. I know it's a long intro. You're in the periwinkle room for like 30 minutes. You're like, dude, there's no snacks here. I'm nervous. And this guy just shut up and get me on stage already.
Yeah, you didn't follow my rider that had all the snacks I required to sit in there.
You don't get a trailer. I ask you a bunch of questions before you come on here. That's 100% for you. We're not going to cover any of those. Mike, where are you joining from today? What part of the world do you call home?
Sun Prairie, Wisconsin. So just outside of Madison.
Is it still summer? It's in August of 2024, or is it full winter at this point up there?
No, we're still enjoying summer. It's having a week a little bit, feeling a little more fall-ish in the 70s, but that's also, we've got no humidity at the moment, and that's what makes Wisconsin the beautiful spot it is at this time of year.
It is. It's if you've never been to Wisconsin, it sounds like you'd be boring, but it's actually a very pretty part of the world. It's people don't realize that, and people from Wisconsin don't want to tell you about it because they don't want you to move there.
Right.
So they wanted a secret, people.
Summers are great. Winters are a little brutal at times.
They are a little brutal up there.
That's what keeps people from moving here.
So Mike, you're a marketing consultant, coach. depends who you're working with. It's one and the same, right? So it's
Yeah.
it's like today's topic is around fixing marketing, and we'll get into the details of that. Do you want to start with maybe just your background, a little bit of like how you even got into this whole marketing game? Because I mean, a lot of people just kind of fall in a career and be like, "Hey, I'll do marketing. It's easy," and then they're in the business, but that's not your path. So take a couple minutes to kind of set up who you are, and then we'll have a conversation around fixing marketing for small business.
Yeah, I've been feeling a little old now, but I've been doing marketing for about 30 years, and I started in college. I discovered it in college. I wanted to do business with theater at the time, and was doing work in the front of house. Found that I enjoyed the marketing part, the communications part, and so moved my majors to be public relations and marketing. Went out, worked in the theater industry for I think the first 3 years, and then moved into product development and collectibles with the Franklin Mint, and did every aspect of marketing you can probably do within that arena, from planning multinational campaigns to product development and managing the catalog business, and then moved to Wisconsin to help turn around the marketing efforts with the direct-to-consumer retailer. Stayed with that company for 14 years, 10 and a half of which I was full P&L responsibility for the business as a general manager president, and then found myself deciding what to do next in my career. Have a passion for small business and what small businesses mean to a community, and that's really the powerhouse and the backbone of our country falls within small business and entrepreneurs, and took the very scary, what felt like scary, stupid step at the moment of time, and said, let's just step right out and do it. And focus my efforts on how to make a bigger impact by helping small business owners and entrepreneurs not give up on the journey, because the business of business gets hard.
It is one of the biggest stats I talk about half the country hates their job, right? And that's who admit it, because they don't trust the survey. And most of those, and most people want to become entrepreneurs. Every economic indicator from studies all over show that countries that enable entrepreneurship in a healthy way do better long term. In every one of them, it's like one of the unspoken metrics, right? So I agree with you 100% that, like, that backbone of small business is always under threat of obviously larger companies doing stuff like big box stores, other things. But today's day and age, as you get bigger and bigger, you tend to lose more focus on personal, right? And small businesses can now leverage technology that only big businesses could have afforded. So I think there's a shift coming back where a small business will be able to keep up on some scale for customer service, production, and also then add personal touches, what people are actually looking for in this day and age as we get just digitized to death. Maybe dive into that a bit with just small business marketing, set up the problem that you're seeing, that you kind of commonly see against all small businesses, regardless of industry. But what's kind of the big problem?
Yeah, I'd say the biggest problem that we see is there's so many opportunities and so many different things that you could choose to do as a small business, and conflicting advice out there that you can search for. How do I do X, Y, and Z? How do I grow my small business with marketing? And you'll get a crazy amount of choices and conflicting opinions on how to do it. And a lot of people telling you that if you just follow this plan or my blueprint or X, Y, and Z, you'll scale your business to this overnight. And so nobody knows who to trust or follow. And what happens is a small business ends up, and a lot of business owners end up sort of chasing tactics. And it's, I'll do this, and then I'll go do this, and then I'll do this, or I'll try this. And most of the time you're not sticking with anything long enough, and you haven't really defined the purpose or the reason why you're doing it for your business. And when you don't know why you're doing it, and you haven't taken the time to connect your message or figure out how to explain what you do and communicate what you do, then very quickly people say marketing doesn't work. I've tried it, It doesn't work. And the challenge is it does. It takes time. And so everybody out there telling you that you'll get success overnight if you just do something related to marketing is talking about the rare case, not the most common case. And most people struggle with, how do I communicate what I do in a concise way that connects with the people I'm called to serve, right? The people that you feel pulled and called to serve as an entrepreneur. A lot of times we use language that doesn't make any sense to them. It's not the language that they're using when they're describing problems or what they want to achieve in life. And getting people to move from that to communicating it is one of the big challenges, and focus.
It is. I mean, in short, the problem is like people, business owners are like, really, they're in their own, they know their business and they're in the weeds,
right?
And they don't come up sometimes enough to say, what's really just the overarching problem you solve? And for like a restaurant, it's not, people can eat anywhere. People can buy food. They want to enjoy, relax, like have fun, be, and love what's being served to them. Like, you want to get like you're there to serve somebody. Like, and sometimes people just miss it. Like, oh, our food is so great. Like, like that's actually not a draw. It's actually everything else. Why I'd pay $50 for this thing I can buy for $6 in a store, right? It's correct. That's why. And like, if you're a marketing company, let's say, you start talking about everything you do in marketing, as opposed to like, listen, I help people on Instagram do DM campaigns from pay-per-click so they can make more money and inform their customers. Like, if you get super specific, people go, oh, okay, I need that because it solves that. And I agree with you that they don't, a lot of times small business owners are, they don't know what they don't know, and they can get sold snake oil pretty easily. And the reason why, you talked about this. So the reason why people do marketing, if your answer is to make more money, it is so incredibly too broad, you're going to get tricked all day. Right.
And yes, the marketing in general, like if your reason to do it is to make money, then it's not going to work. You're focusing on a transactional relationship in a small business. The advantage of small business is you really get to build relationships, and you use marketing to make building relationships easier at scale. And so you want to connect with the person that you're serving using the marketing, and using those communication tools to build relationships, nurture the relationship. Because I think the stat out there is 5% of people, when they learn about your business the first time, are actually going to be anywhere close ready to buy. And so you want to be able to pique their interest potentially, but you also want a way that you can nurture that relationship and develop it. And if you do it right, if you serve your customers, if you serve the audience that you're speaking to, the business will happen. It doesn't mean there aren't certain things, right? But the goal shouldn't be transactions. The goal shouldn't be, I just need more money, because ultimately that you'll burn out fast.
No doubt. And, we'll go through your own example, because you had to do this for yourself. So like, there's no better example of all the errors and mistakes you probably have made in your own journey to explain what you've learned and taught to others, and going to yourself versus corporate, because the funds are different, the goals are different, the reach. The idea that you build it and they will come doesn't actually exist. I think in marketing, I think an interesting thing is you do need to build it. You need to invite people into it for free. And the thing you were selling is not for them to come, it was them to buy a beer at your event. And so they come back to more events, but you still have to build that field. You still have to provide them value of things they want to enhance their experience, but you got to bring them in there a couple times first. And that costs money and that costs time. It used to be like 7-13 touches. I think that number has been shown to be close to 24. How many times you need to have someone be in front of them? So this Gary Vaynerchuk jab hook is almost way too aggressive, right? It's like, that's two values, ask me for something. That's kind of like people pull back. Anyway, so talk about the numbers a little of how often you're going to need to get ahead of it, and maybe talk about it in the context of just building your own business.
Yeah, it's you'll see different conflicting numbers, but it's somewhere between 20, 30, 40
okay.
times that the more somebody is engaging with you, the closer they are to potentially engaging in a relationship. But it can take time. People want to do a lot of research. There's a lot of distrust in the world, so they're nervous about what they want to do next. And so for me, when I So when I started, because I come with a broad experience of marketing, I spent a good amount of time in the beginning, what I'll call in the one-on-one world of getting out and talking to people, meeting different business owners, understanding what their issues were, where they were struggling, using my own experience to understand they may be saying this, but what they need to solve is over on the other side. And then I had to decide how was I going to package something or offer something. And the key is you want to wait, or you have this feeling, or I had this feeling, oh, I need to create this perfect offer. I need to create this perfect package. And when I do that, I'll be ready to go out and start doing what I work with everybody else to do, which is market their own business. And ultimately, I had to realize that that offer is going to evolve, and that offer is going to change as I get more and more, as I work with more and more people, and be willing to let the experiences of serving people also shape what value and where I was going to concentrate different offers or different packages. Because right. I started saying, well, I was coming from e-commerce largely. I'm just going to go service e-commerce businesses. And I was having a lot of conversations with e-commerce businesses, but based on where they were at the moment and the time they were at and their background, they weren't necessarily either feeling like they needed help or wanting to sort of
knowing
that next move, right? So I was at a meeting with a consulting group that I belong to, and all these people were talking about, all of a sudden the topic came up and I was like, man, marketing's this magic. It's like magic. I can't pull back the curtain. I can't figure out the secret. And I'm like, I don't think marketing's that hard. But right, that's my background. And so I ended up saying I'd be happy to help you figure out what your challenges are with marketing and how to go from there. And from those conversations, I realized that a lot of people were struggling with, how do I put this all together? I've got this and this, and how do I package it all and put it together? So meeting with them, I started developing programs, and now I'm, from a customer perspective, I serve more what I'll consider informational experts, people who are packaging their expertise as a coach, consultant, or a course creator, than I do retail and consumer. But a lot of what I did in retail, in consumer, direct to consumer marketing, applies directly to what everybody else is doing too, right? It's packaging, how to position it. In some ways, thinking of your service as a product helps it become more tangible. So how do I take this stuff that is very intangible in their mind and make it tangible? And I've had to do the same thing with my business and my services. Is, okay, how do I take this and make it more tangible? And every time there's an evolution, and it keeps evolving based on what you learn.
Yeah, well, 100%. So you're speaking to a very good point too. When you're in when you are in your business really matters. So if you're like at ideation stage or side hustle stage, you're still working, versus, hey, I've been in it 20 years and it's gotten flat. There's along that journey, you have products or services that you have that fulfill and solve certain problems for people. So even from the retail, like the small hardware retailer, let's say, that has every little thing imaginable, each one of those things solves a problem, which is way more complexity, but the overall business solves a problem. Right. We really get it personalized. Like there's a way to, like, there is a reason you come here instead of Home Depot, right? Down to, let's say, the person just starting a e-commerce, based consulting marketing firm. You're going to have to narrow down what your niche is, because you're going to get one shot at one person occasionally. And where you came out is where a lot of people do start. They take what they have from corporate and they said, hey, I think I could do this for companies. And they quickly realize it's not the same customer and the need, because your customer and your knowledge is a different when versus who you're going to get to talk to when you're on your own. And you were smart enough to say, but I can take that and extrapolate value from what I learned and apply it to a group that is ready to buy. And that is ready to buy piece is how you kind of fix marketing, in my opinion. And like you just did there is the fix. You said, don't keep shoving that square peg into the round hole. Look at the peg and find the right place where that now works for the new puzzle. And I think that metaphor, or I don't know if it's analogy or a metaphor or simile. I'm not very good at English, but if I was, that thing right there is where marketing is broken, just fundamentally. So maybe talk about that in more practical steps, because you did fix your marketing by fixing what your value proposition was for the problem, instead of forcing it and overcomplicating it. So I'll take that really exciting, deep thing and let you explain it to everybody now.
Yeah, I think what it comes down to is you've got three components of really four components of marketing that really drive the success. It's going to be your offer, your audience, your message, and the experience that you're creating. And the experience, sort of those three components impact the experiences that you create. Any one of those, 90% of the time, that's where the fix is going to come in. You've either got a mismatch between the offer and the audience, or a mismatch between the message in the audience and the offer is really good. And you have to sit there and sort of dig in and play detective and diagnose where's the mismatch and how do I adjust something to get it to fit. But it's almost always one of those. And then you can be creating an experience that either makes it really hard for somebody to do business with you,
Right.
And there's certain things, like you can go to a website and have so many choices about the next step to take that you have no idea what next step you should take.
Yeah, you don't know what to do. A confused buyer does not move forward, period.
Right. So you may confuse somebody so much they don't know what to do. Your experience of when you're doing business with the person might need to be amplified, right? If you get a lot of first-time purchases, but then you're not getting repeat or sustained stuff. So it's really looking at all those pieces and saying, well, where's the problem? And then how do I make adjustments to get that to fit? And sometimes it is a pivot to a new audience, right? Sometimes it's,
well, let's dive into that
ready.
just a bit, because the before you pivot, right? And you said the complications people do. So if you're an engineer type in the weeds, you really know your business, you'll love it. The chance that you just throw a bunch of shit in the wall and hope it sticks is pretty high. And, and the fact that you think you add value by showing all the things and the intricacies and the steps and the tech and every little thing that goes on, your buyer does not they don't care at all. What they care is, hey, I can solve your problem for a really good value, very fast, and in a repeatable way. They care about that. Mm-hmm. And so I think what you're describing there in the simplest terms, first of all, I love the fact that you can easily discover probably where the issue is. And second, this is your problem you have to solve as your consultant, is getting them to trust. You might have to dumb it down, or you may have to trust that you give them less options, because they are not your customer. They are a buyer that needs you to solve one thing, and they don't have much time. And if you can't communicate that you can do this quickly, I'm out. I'm gonna find somebody else who can just make it simple for me. Life's complicated enough. And you see this repeated over and over and over and over again when people's websites, that they just get, I do this, I do that. I mean, I'm guilty of it as well. Don't get me wrong. And everybody is. But the simpler you make it, the flip side of that is, you as a business owner that's trying to help another business, is that you kind of pucker up. You're like, oh my God, I'm limiting myself to this field and this industry. Here's the deal. There's a lot of people, whatever field or industry you're in. The more specific you are to them, the more likely you'll close. And so do you want to talk about that transition from working with customers to have them, what do they have to get out of their way brain-wise? If someone listening is like, oh, I can't imagine giving up all this detail. I think I'm, how do you work somebody through that? Because that is a big problem with a customer.
Yeah, I think when we're faced with that, one of the easiest ways to look at it is look at what the 80% is. Where's that? What's driving 80% of the business? What's driving the biggest bang? So even when it comes down to talking to a client, let's say about a customer and who they're really targeting, if we look at the customers that are driving 80% of the business, you can usually find the niche. And what I'll say is that doesn't mean, usually what gets somebody past it is just because you say that's who you're targeting and who you're going after to talk about. If you've got somebody on the side who approaches you and says, man, I love your service, I love your product, I love what you're talking about, can you help me? It doesn't mean you have to say, No, I'm sorry. My website said I only help coaches and consultants. For instance, I won't help you as a small business owner. No, you can say if it fits in your model and it fits with you operationally, you can say absolutely, I'll take you on as a client. Um, I've had people who serve women who say, but I've got some men clients. Okay, but do you really want to go after and build them? Well, no. Will you take them? Sure. Well, sure. If they reach out to you and they love what you're doing and you can serve them, you can still take them on. You're not
Yeah, as long as it's core to your offer. And I'll
right.
say
Right.
for people who take on business that's if you're in a swim lane of what you do, like I said, like if you're a marketing example, right? If you do Facebook ads, pay per click, and you know how to, everything about that, that's your swim lane. You can go fast. You'll never drown in it. You got it.
Right.
As soon as somebody comes to you and goes, maybe you just serve men or women there. Like you say, I just serve women by brand, but if men come, of course I'll take them because it's the same problem. Just happens to be just a slight nuance there of gender. That's a brand problem. But someone comes to you and say, hey, we run my TikTok pay-per-click ads. You're now in a new swim lane of which you're probably going to drown in because
Correct.
it is not the same lane that you're in. And
Correct.
that's where I would tell people to be cautious. And maybe you have a different opinion on this, but I think this is where agencies fall apart and get bad reps and people have bad experiences when they kind of step on something that's similar, but they don't really truly master or know it.
Yeah, that is a danger zone.
And that's extrapolated to other businesses as well. Hey, you do barbecue, and all of a sudden you're like, we're going to do vegan. You're like, really?
Right.
Anyway, so maybe talk about that, because as you fix your marketing and you start taking services that are sort of out of bounds, your marketing bends. So if you're 100% women, focused on women in your example, but then you start getting men and your testimonials become men, like you start affecting the marketing on the brand side. So how does someone balance when they're coming out of bounds of brand, which is part of your marketing, which is part of your voice, but when you're bringing on customers because you need revenue that may not fit into that? So take a few moments on that, because that's a balance between collecting revenue versus long-term sustainability.
Yeah, well, some of it would come down to, because you take on that client, if they don't fit the persona or the brand that you're trying to build, you don't necessarily need to use them as a testimonial, but you can certainly use them for experience and you can use them to provide value. The balance would be one thing is, over time you want to watch if all of a sudden you're getting a whole new group of and this would be customer based. So a lot of times your business can pivot customer wise or evolve. So it's more of an evolution. You need to watch to say, am I evolving or am I going out of scope? So sometimes you may find you're attracting a different person, right? So in my example, I could have been talking, hey, e-commerce, and some speakers and consultants were saying, hey, can I use can you help me out? I mean, I adjusted and said, well, here's where the real market potential is at the moment. But I may have, smartly, if I had just taken them on, if I had already been getting business in the e-commerce area, I might have been like, is what I'm doing, can it pivot to this audience as well? Can I scale it to this audience as well without losing my brand integrity or my product, and still provide a good service? Then the answer might be yes. Or am I diluting it? So actually, like right now, I've come to a point. I've been offering sort of done for you. I'll be your head of marketing service provider for small businesses, and sort of I'll coach and mentor you through it. But you're more of a DIY person, so I'm going to teach you how to do marketing and communicate what you do and pull it along. I've come to the realization over the past few months that those are really two different problems. One is an entrepreneur who says, I'm so tied up in the operations of my business, I just don't have time to do marketing. So I want an agency, or I want somebody to just do it for me and run with it. I don't really care what you do. I don't really care what you say. Just get me some results. To somebody who's saying, I'm overwhelmed. I don't know where I should focus. I don't know what step I should take next, but what I communicate is so true to me that it's near impossible to turn that over to somebody else. Not necessarily to repurpose, but just to come up with the initial things and do some of it. Or I'm at a stage of my business I can't afford to outsource or build a whole team. it's two different major problem points. And so I'm now moving more towards where I get where I personally find the most fulfillment is in helping the people conquer that and end that overwhelm related to it so they can fix their marketing and focus on what's most important to them and develop the strategies that fit their business, not somebody else's blueprint and their personality, so they can keep going. So that's I'm in the process of moving more towards positioning things that way and moving away from a full done for you
Right.
service, right? Because I was straddling two different lanes and I couldn't do, I'm not doing, in some ways not doing either one as effectively as I could, because as an
right.
entrepreneur and a solopreneur who has his own practice without a huge team of people, I've got to make choices of where I'm going to focus priorities. And when I'm trying to straddle both equally, and where those audiences hang out is different. Like where you find the person who doesn't have time is not the same place as where you find the person who's overwhelmed. And I can't find my time equally or resources equally. So it's
100% a different model for you in where you market yourself. And I think it extrapolates to how you help your customers. Because if you were only focusing on, if you're focusing on both, you're going to always be kind of chasing the tail on both. It's hard to develop referral systems when you're in two different markets as well. Right. And likely when you're doing things for people, that is what gets broken. Because when you're present in your thoughts and coaching, it's obvious, right? But then if you're losing it on the other side and you're depending on that revenue, it draws away, and it's way more time consuming when you're done for you stuff. And the more relieving, so in your business as well, like it sounds like that's one of your biggest challenges is just making that decision to go for it all the way. And though I'm sure it's giving up future revenue with the idea of, oh God, I better find some clients if I'm going this way, because that's life, right? Like, and so yeah. I mean, but every business owner faces that. We face that when we've pivoted to verifying agency's ability to deliver, right? It's like giving up a $500,000+ revenue line effectively, because we're not going to be marketing towards something I think it's higher value. And I understand that makes the old bunghole go like that. That's the noise it makes, actually.
I think I've heard that.
Broke that serious conversation with a butthole tightening sound. That's right, people. That's what we do here. I just noticed the number of viewers shot up when I did that noise. Anyway, let's do a listicle for fixing marketing from a consultant advisor position. Give me the top 3 things that seem to always repeat. What if you're doing these 3 things? What are they, and what should they do about it?
Yeah, the first is getting clear on your message and the value, the problem that you solve, and the value that you're providing, and being able to communicate that in a way that connects and resonates with your audience. That's the biggest challenge that people have. I'd say the second thing that I would add to the list is that you need to know the purpose of what you're doing. So you want to be marketing on purpose with a purpose, because so many people out there are like, oh, I created an email list. Are you sending anything? No, I'm not sending anything. When was the last time you sent it? Months ago. Why do you have it? Somebody told me that I had to have it. And those are all the wrong reasons to put it in place. So you need to know why you're doing it and what you're doing it for. And when you know that, it starts to become a lot clearer. And then not to wait for the perfect plan, to evolve as you go. And I'll say the way to do that is to focus on what's most important, what's going to make the biggest impact for the business at the time, and then take action. And by taking action, it's what behaviors can you do that'll influence the outcome that you're hoping to see. So it isn't just get more customers. It's, well, what are the 1 to 2 things I can be doing to get more customers, and taking action on it every week. And then watching to see, as you do that over time, how is that impacting the results, and refining as you go. So we're not going to get it. There's a belief that, hey, I'm going to get it right the first time out of the gate. And you're most likely not going to have it perfect the first time out of the gate, but you're going to get learning from that. And every time you get out there and you do a little bit more, you're going to get a little bit more learning. And so you keep evolving, you keep focusing on it, taking more action, and then refining it. And as you do that, you start building momentum. So it's, if you can do those three things, getting clear on your message and your offer, knowing why you're doing it and keeping that purpose of knowing why you're doing it, but then also knowing why you're doing every tactic, and then focusing, taking action, and refining as you go, you're going to have a system at which you can really build.
That's right. It's the, do the little things great so you can become great. And specifically when you're doing these tests, these experiments or these builds or whatever you want to call them, specifically maybe it's around ads or whatever else, change one independent variable at a time.
Right.
And if you don't, you really won't get a sense of it. And that might seem, oh my gosh, it's going to take forever. But if every time you do that, you get a plus, 1%, 0.5%, or a minus 2%, like you'll know what variables are super important and what you should be changing or not changing, or how you should change them. Because that way, you can go from being 3% effective, and however you measure, I'm just giving general numbers, to 8. Right. That 5% is incredible growth. Even if it seems like, oh, I'm only doing like a little bit better in my ads, or I'm doing a little better in my content. See a 10% increase in content impressions and views or engagement, it's a huge deal. You may not look like, you might go from 30 to 33 likes. You might go from 300 to 330 views. That 10% is a massive deal. And don't get caught up in vanity metrics of whatever you're doing. Real business metrics that go back to cost per click, go back to acquisition cost, go back to lifetime value. That's what matters. But you're spot on. Get your message right. Know the purpose of why you're doing something. If you don't know the purpose of why you're doing it, like really specifically, I want to activate this customer into an email list so I can take that email list and send them a drip with the idea that later on that they're going to come and buy, because in the fifth one, it's going to ask. If you don't have that laid out, don't do it. You're spamming people at that point. It's not going to work.
Yeah. So knowing the goal specifically, that's the on purpose part. And then your purpose is also like, why are you doing this in your business in the first place? Like why? Because creating content can be a drag. It can be. And it can,
unless you have a podcast.
It can feel cumbersome, and you'll put something out there and you'll feel like, oh, I didn't get any views. Like I didn't get any likes. This one. But if you know, like I'm doing it to provide value, or I'm doing it also because I want to get better at presenting my message and my value, like that'll give you the fuel to keep going.
It will.
100%. Because it's beyond just, okay, I need the business because I put this post out.
Yeah, so this is something I've known, but kind of heard it validated in the last couple of weeks or so, was when you do your content for your personal or business or whatever is the kind of the nexus of lead generation for you, it has to center around a single problem you solve, and it cannot come off of that. If you do, you lose your audience, and it does matter. Now you can do fun stuff to make them laugh, to be more value engaging. You can bring people in. Let's say, like one thing like a poll I ran was like, should you share your political view on LinkedIn? And the only intention of that is I don't think you should or shouldn't, doesn't matter. I just wanted people to get a discussion, because then my name, it is absolutely 100% a vanity metric play. And it does those, but it doesn't share my actual opinion on the subject. So the point being is, you do things with intent, not to do it because, hey, look at this kitten and it has no value, has nothing. It's like that's actually not a good thing to do for your account unless you do something related and you can make a business analogy out of it. Anyway, the point being is be focused on a singular problem and add value around that problem endlessly. And occasionally ask someone, hey, if you have that problem, I solve it, come talk, right? Kind of thing. So, or buy or download or what have you. Let's take a pause. And let's think of the future now for you personally. You're a business owner. I want you to, in the future, you're about a year out from now, you're going to look back and say, I'm super proud I did what?
I can be fairly specific on this one. My goal in the next year is to sort of publish framework, what I would call my approach to marketing, and what that model or framework looks like for people. It's up here, right? But the challenge is, how do you get it spelled out in a way that connects and helps people see that there's a way to do marketing that's different from what the world is out there teaching. teaching you that isn't using hyper manipulation, but it's based on authenticity and relationships, but it isn't just coining everybody else's work, that it's taking everything that I've experienced and learned in the 30 years and saying, this is the model.
I love it. That's, when you have that goal, you're gonna look back, man, if I get that out that shouldn't take a year for you to do. I feel like that's like next week.
No, and I'll say right now, I told somebody the other day, I have all of the ingredients, right? I've got a lot of the ingredients out. I'm not 100% sure what the title of the recipe is yet.
Doesn't matter.
But that's the beauty of what you can do with some content, right? That can evolve, that can change. That won't stop me from beginning to speak about it and talk about it and teach on it and see what's resonating. And then ultimately from that, I'm 100% confident that God's going to lead me to say, this is the title you're going to use. I know it centers around loving your customer. And I know it centers around marketing on purpose with a purpose. And there's a number of shifts people have to make in their mindsets and in the way they approach marketing. So is all that, yeah. It won't be. At some point next year, I'll be looking back and like, I'm really glad I did that, and where that's.
I have an easy solution for you. I want you just to go record yourself rambling on a walk for 2 hours just do a giant ass brain dump and repeat yourself as needed and criticize yourself and record it. And you're going to go dump that into an Otter or some type of translation. And then you're going to go dump that into GPT and say, hey, make sense of this nonsense. And then you're going to hand it over to somebody, a ghostwriter, and say, write it. And when they get done, GPT is going to be like, here's a couple 40 titles, if you want to go the Christian route, if you want to go this route, if you want to go, that's like an afternoon. We're going to get that knocked out. What you should be proud of, I think, is that it's helped impact 100 businesses a year from now. That would be, I think, it's all in your head. So just go talk to it. Don't worry about that little noise you're talking about right now. Like that's going to happen. Like, you don't write the intro to a book till it's over, right?
That you are correct. And you probably shouldn't title the book until the book's written, right?
What's funny is I've named my book Never Been Promoted, and that was the first because it was available.com. And and one of the rules of podcasts or something else is you should name it something that people want to be on. So I should have probably named it Unleash Your Entrepreneur, but that's already taken. But the idea being is, you're right. I probably should have come up with the content first. But then there's also this marketing that neverbeenpromoted.com was available, and I bought it. So, guys, you got to balance sometimes.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I get the whole name availability thing. I went through that when I named my business.
Thank God they have blue ties available though, so I could cut them off.
Yeah, right. You've got the cut the tie.
That's right. You got to have brand people. Shameless plug time for you. How do you want people to get? Who specifically? This is guys. He's gonna eat his own. No, drink his own champagne. No one eats dog food. Drink your own champagne.
Take my own medicine is what I'm usually saying.
Specifically, when are they in their journey, and who should get a hold of you and how?
Yeah. So the audience, if you've been out there for a few years with your business, and you've got a whole bunch of pieces and you're not quite sure how to put it all together to make it work, and you're struggling with where to focus and you're overwhelmed with what to do next, you're the person who should be talking to me. Specifically, I have a passion and a knack for serving people who have previously been in the corporate world, and have chosen to break free from that to build a different type of life for themselves and a business around that. So if you're one of those people and an entrepreneur, we should talk.
And you go to Fiddlesmart Marketing. Look at this. See, we're going to help him.
Oh, yeah. You can go to fiddlesmartmarketing.com. I do offer a free strategy session. So we'll talk about what challenges you're having, what you've been doing with marketing, and help provide you some focus, fully complimentary to get you focused on what you should be doing next and a step you can be taking, right after that call.
It's funny because, marketers are usually the ones who struggle the most to say what they like. You're like,
we're horrible. We're really good at doing it for other people's businesses.
exactly. Like you're
We
like
are
killers.
horrible at doing it for ourselves.
It's because you're also like, okay, so I'll give the mind of a marketer. Anybody who wants to care here, if you're still on or listen to this point, is that we have a lot of thoughts of what we should or shouldn't say. And then it just comes out with, but Mike, you actually did a good job of that. The truth is you want people in the US who have hit a point of, I'm not sure what to do. And none of it seems to be working as well as it should. They should call you so you can just help them clear the noise, cut through the forest, get them focused, get them some results. Like, hey, listen, here are the indicators of either be revenue or whatever the right KPIs are.
Right.
Because that's where the value is at, is when you can have someone focused. As soon as that cloud is lifted from that owner by somebody taking a large chunk, like marketing by far is the hardest part of entrepreneurship, is getting someone to see and know what you do or learn about your problem or whatever it is. When you can clear that noise, their brain becomes very clear of how they should focus their services or product or delivery, because it starts revealing who cares.
Right.
And those two things together are just lethal for growth.
Yep. And see, that's a fun part, right? Because as marketers, we struggle with the same issue with our own business, because we get, just like most of the people I serve, we get in our own heads. We get everything swirling around of, well, I could do this. I could do this. Should I say this? Should I say it this way? What if I did it this way? Well, what about this? And having that outside perspective and the expertise on the other side, listening, it's really, really helpful. And people get the breakthroughs that they need when you can say, well, what you're saying, like that, what you just said, that's the nugget. And they're like, I've had clients say, how did you come up with that for me? And I'm like, I didn't come up with it for you. You said it. I heard it and reflected it back to you.
I mean, I will tell you, one of the things I love to do is in initial meetings when people kind of really do the brain dump and the honesty really comes out. There's no like, they haven't hired you. They just want to say, what do you think? And here's what I'm pissed about this. And I record them and say, hey, listen, can I just take notes so I can come back? And I'll use GPT and be like, what the hell is the core thing that they do and value? And it's amazing how fast you can come back with a little AI, give your perspective on that. Say, hey, this is what we actually are saying. And they're like, no, it's not. Like, everything you're saying actually says you solved this problem. This is the problem you have, is you don't realize you're solving that.
Yeah.
And so when you do that, they're like, you start giving perspective, and you can use a little AI to help you kind of take nonsense or a rambling. And I just let people go, because I'm like, listen, just talk, because it can repeat it 50 different ways. Yes. Now, I say that in some of the biggest fights I have with my wife is like, she'll repeat herself, or because I'm just not listening or whatever. And I'm like, stop repeating. Anyway, I'm not, honey, if you're listening, I'm not trying to fight. My point is only, I should probably just let you go, throw a little GPT on it. And like, can you give me like 3 minutes? And
I'll come back with understanding what you said.
Okay, honey, I feel like what you're saying is, and look down at chat.
Yeah. AI and chat GPT, they're great for doing that too. And the other, if you ever do a brain dump, and I've used this with clients too, I've asked a lot of questions. We take everything that they've said, we throw it into a word cloud and see what words rise to the top that they kept repeating.
Great idea.
Repeat it over and over. And sometimes we'll compare that to the current website. And there's a huge difference a lot of times of like, well, what you're saying,
that's brilliant.
What you're saying here and what you're saying here are completely different. Why don't we bridge that?
Well, and and I will leave with this, maybe, like, that's a really good point. What you're saying versus what customers are looking for around the same problem. Maybe the problem is your website doesn't actually communicate those words, but you just describe in the context of what the customer is looking for.
Right.
And so, sometimes you have to sell people what they want and deliver what they need, because they don't know what they want, because they're not completely sure on the problems or how to solve it, which is why they're searching, right? And that's a brilliant way to do it. I haven't even thought about that. I'm totally going to steal it. So thank you. Free advice. This is why I started the podcast, people, is I got tired of trying to find a coach. I was like, I'm just going to go talk to a few hundred a month and then get the nuggets. This is, these are beautiful Chick-fil-A nuggets you're giving right now. If you don't like chicken, too bad. I don't care. Chick-fil-A nuggets are great, except, what a good business would be is delivering Chick-fil-A on Sunday by buying it all day Saturday and finding a way to kind of keep it.
Finding a way to keep it warm and as good as it is.
Resell it extra, like, couple bucks. Like, I can deliver you Chick-fil-A.
Right.
Dumb business. Don't do it. Okay. Mike, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Once again, to get a hold of Mr. Mike, just free consultation, Fiddles Mart Marketing, FIDDLES MART marketing.com. If you can't spell that, don't go to Mike because he doesn't want you to. Because if you can't spell that, like fiddlesmartmarketing.com, it's probably not you're gonna blow them away intellectually, and they're gonna have problems. Do you take foreign clients, or you just say screw it, USA only?
No, I'll talk to somebody foreign.
All right, look at that. He's holistic. Mike, thank you. I'm gonna put you in the periwinkle room. There's no snacks. Well, actually, there never are any. But anyway, I'll have you right back on. Thank you so much for coming on. Everybody who listened today, got here today, who stayed with us, who've just was part of this journey. There's some really good advice from Mike on how to focus into your marketing. If you obviously contact Mike if you need help, it helps further our mission as well to help you get better at entrepreneurship. One of the ties you kind of need to cut sometimes is your own thinking of how to do things in marketing when you're not a marketing expert. The same thing can apply to sales. It can tie to all kinds of stuff. Know what you do really, really well, and have the courage to be able to let go, to cut that tie to thinking you have to do everything, or you think you need to know everything. You need to know enough to know when to hire or when to bring in someone to really solve a problem for you. Otherwise, you get stuck in these plateaus. You get stuck in downward, slowly growth or decline. And you do have to recognize those moments so you can be successful. But Mike, once again, thank you so much for coming on. But the only thing I ever ask typically is, go to the YouTube channel, give it a subscribe if you really like it, youtube.com/neverbeenpromoted. But until we meet again, get out there and go unleash your entrepreneur.